Okay, where do I start? Let's start with what is reality? Okay, the first thing that I would say is that literally it's the exact opposite of what they have told us reality is. From observation, paying attention, reading, listening, and just tuning in general to what's going on around me, this is the conclusion that I've come to. A race of higher consciousness, immortal beings created a virtual reality game in which to experience the concept known to us as death. Okay, so this concept within itself bears extrapolation, but the best way I can explain this is simple. When I play World of Warcraft, part of the allure of playing the game is the ability to do things within that game that I wouldn't be able to do in this reality. So to play as an orc or a night elf, to fly on a mount, to be a hunter, to tame wild animals. I clearly cannot do that with ease in this reality, which is what makes playing that video game so much fun and so exciting. The reason why a person would play a NASCAR racing game is because they can race in NASCAR um, when, at least virtually, when they can't do that in this reality. So, what I mean by the fact that the game that we're playing, that we know of as life, is merely a simulation created by immortal beings to experience the concept of death, is exactly that. You simulate things that you cannot ordinarily experience in a normal life. And because we live in a world where death is all around us, everything dies, everything ends, it makes sense to me that, well, what being, what race of people would want to experience the finite? Clearly, something, a consciousness that was immortal. Death is all around us, everything dies. But when we play video games, we live infinite loops of lives. So why then would a higher consciousness create a world where things seem finite? And I use the word seem for a reason, because I do believe that even within this world, as we live, even though things seem to die, our peers seem to die, when we lose loved ones, they seem to die, it seems to end for them. Because of the nature of the consciousness of these higher beings, of these higher races, there really isn't that finite occurrence of death. For example, if you're playing Super Mario Brothers and Mario takes a leap, misses his jump, falls into the hole, you lose a life, but you just reset back to your last point before your death occurred. Other games are like that as well. You always just reset back to your saving point, or the point before you experience death. I have no reason to believe that the same thing does not occur now to us as we live right now. I do believe that there are parallel multiverses occurring at once, and I do believe that if you die in one multiverse, you cannot return back to that multiverse, but you can reset at the same point before the day began, the day in which you died began. So, for example, if I were to die today, my reset point or my save point would be last night when I went to sleep. I couldn't or wouldn't wake up back into this multiverse in which I died, because the versions of the people who are in my life in this multiverse would have experienced my passing. But should I continue to play, once I have died, I would in fact just reset back to last night, which would have been my save point, and then just woken up in a different parallel multiverse where whatever it is that killed me today didn't happen. I genuinely don't think that death is the end. And I believe that what happens on the micro level can also be seen occurring on the macro level. There's the expression as above, so below, as below, so above. Same concept. Whatever happens on a micro level happens on a macro level. And so if we play video games and our characters die only to get reset back to their saving point, then how do we know the same thing doesn't happen to us? We only assume that because when a person that we know die to us in this multiverse, we don't see them again, and our lives keep going on. We just assume that it's for sure infinite for them. Their death is the end of it. It's the end forever. But we here have no way of knowing that just because they died to us in this multiverse doesn't mean they didn't shift their consciousness to a parallel multiverse wherein they survived and continued living on. So that's my first point. My second point has to do with manifesting the reality that you desire. When a person goes to play a video game, and the reason why I use video games to explain life is because it makes sense. We have physicists, quantum physicists, discussing the concept of life being a simulation, or reality being a simulation. So the only point of reference that I can use to understand a simulation would be video games, which in turn, using the as above, so below, or whatever happens on the macro level happens also on the micro level, it would make sense that if we can create video games that simulate our lives, for example, like in The Sims, then how do we know that we're not currently simulating life, what we call existence or living right now? I've watched a sim that I've created play a video game and have been struck by the irony of it, only to take a step back and think of that sort of mirror effect, where if you hold a mirror and look in a mirror, you see a mirror reflection of yourself continuing to all eternity. So I'm watching my sim playing a video game as I'm playing a video game, and then I stop and realize that what if something above me is also playing a video game, etc., etc., etc. So this morning I was stuck, or rather struck, with the thought, two things. Just a thought popped into my head, perhaps a revelation. First thought was, I have good news. And then the second thought was, and I have bad news. The good news is that you're immortal. The bad news is that you're going to live forever. Now, how that ties into the multiple layered levels of simulation is that just because we die and awake in a different reality doesn't mean that that reality is the true reality. So, whoever it is controlling me now, my persona, that's Anna, they have no way of knowing or not knowing that the reality, the higher plane above Earth, in which they're plugged, where they're plugged into this reality, they have no way of knowing that that reality isn't also a simulation. So as right now I'm having this conversation, I'm postulating that in fact that this is a simulation. My sim and my computer, if it were conscious, has no way of knowing that it's in a simulation, or perhaps it does. And the game that it's playing, you see the sort of loop, feedback loop that occurs. So reverse it. If I'm playing a video game, then how do I know the person playing me in the simulation reality isn't also in a simulated reality? And perhaps they are aware of it, and perhaps they're aware of a multi-tiered simulation in which you wake up from one reality to another, and then another reality to another, and in each tier, the trick is to realize that you're in a reality, awaken from that, and move on and move on and move on. But that would make sense of some such an occurrence to occur, because what is the cure for immortality? Well, a simulation that simulates death, that simulates finality. Otherwise, life is long and tedious. Maybe not always nasty, maybe not always brutish, but definitely not short. So that's something for my higher self to contemplate whenever I awaken from this one. So going back then to the thought of manifesting the reality that you desire. I've had this conversation with a friend, my friend Missy. We had a conversation about a future wherein she wants to be, or she desires to be, happily married with children. And she talked to me about the power of positive thinking and the law of attraction, and how she hopes to use the law of attraction to attract to her the future that she desires. My response to that was, well, I don't think you have to manifest the reality that you desire, create it. I think that the reality in which you're happily married with children already exists and is pre-programmed into the reality that we are living in right now. That's a hard concept to put into words. Even now I struggle trying to make sure that I'm making sense. I understand it and I can grasp it, but translating it into words proves tougher than I would have imagined. But I'll try anyway. So hear me out. Okay. When you buy a CD-ROM from a video game store, let's use The Sims again as an example. In The Sims, before the game is even launched, a programmer or a group of programmers have pre-programmed into the game every single probable reality that your sim can experience. I like The Sims. I like the video games The Sims because it's basically like our life now. You can get a job, you can get a pet, you can get married, you can go to college, you can travel, you can have all these experiences, procreation and all the like. But these things, these concepts are already pre-programmed into the game before the game's even launched, before the game's even put on the shelves for a person to buy, before a person even buys the game, takes it to their home and puts the CD in their CD-ROM. I don't know if people still have CD-ROMs anymore, but you get the idea. It's already in there. So for me, when I go and I sit at the computer and I create a sim called Anna, because I'm creative that way. And I decide in my mind, okay, I want Anna to be happily married and with kids. I don't have to create that reality within the game of The Sims. The programmers have already done that. They've already embedded into the game the possibility or the probability of whatever desire a player has for their character to experience. The experience is already in the game. Right? My sim doesn't have to create a reality. My sim doesn't have to manifest that reality. My sim doesn't have to sit around and meditate and have, a vision board and draw what it wants and desires. No, it's not that serious. It's already in the game. So I said to my friend Missy, I said, look, excuse me, the reality in which every conscious desire you have, conscious being the operative word, has already come pre-programmed into this game since before you even chose to come into this world as Missy, as your persona, Missy. So that means all probable realities that you can contemplate, imagine, desire, comes here. It's already here. And you could call it a multiverse. You can call it a parallel universe or parallel reality or an alternate timeline. It's all here. You just have to shift your consciousness or your conscious mind into accepting that it is a fully probable reality and that it's well within your grasp to experience it. So she said to me, she says, something that I have to acquire. I said, no, you don't have to acquire it. You have to experience it. The programmers want you to have that experience. Just like the programmers of The Sims, when they come up with an expansion pack that says you can now have pets, well, they want you as a player to buy the expansion pack and have the pet ownership within the Sims experience. It's not something that your Sims has to manifest, it's part of the game. So part of the game is being able to procreate. Part of the game is being able to have a partner or a spouse that you love, your soulmate, whatever it is that you want to call it. It's part of the gameplay. And they programmed it, and the way you know that they've programmed it is because other people are married and have kids. If it's possible for other people, it's possible for you. All you have to do is experience it. The thought process also hits my mind for people who think about desiring wealth and opulence or fame. Well, if you look around and you see other players, other subscribers, human beings, driving nice cars, successful, happily married, traveling the world, if it's possible for them and you live in that reality where it's possible for other people, then it's possible for you. It already exists as a probability for you. Right. The only impossibilities right now are things where if you look and see no other person doing it, then yes, you live in a reality where that's not possible. I don't see anybody else walking through walls. I mean, unless I guess ghosts, but that's a whole nother conversation. So I can't walk through a wall. That's my only restriction. I don't see anybody else on a daily basis flying without the use of a vehicle, just flying or levitating on their own free will. I don't see that on a daily basis. Not saying it's not probable, because I have seen videos of people levitating, but I just haven't seen it. I don't have definitive proof that it's possible, but I do have definitive proof that people can be billionaires. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, it's out there, or millionaires. I have definitive proof that people can be happily married. I have definitive proof that people can have children. So it's a possibility. It's already programmed within the code of this game that any human being, if they should have the desire to be married and to have kids, to be successful, to be famous, or whatever it is, to be an astronaut, or that's a whole nother conversation with the whole NASA thing, but a politician, if other people are achieving it, it's possible for you. I'll take it 2 steps further. Not only is it possible for you, if you believe in quantum physics and you believe in multiple realities and parallel multiverses, then there is a version of you out there that has already achieved and accomplished or experienced or manifested, whatever word you want to use. There is a version of you that has already experienced what it is that you're desiring right now. All you have to do is shift your consciousness into that reality. Think of all these multiple probable multiverses as destinations. Think of your consciousness, your higher self, as not fixed within this body. Think of the self that you see when you look into the mirror as one of an infinite number of yourselves. So not only are there infinite amounts of or versions of Anna, there's also infinite versions of characters that the higher self controlling Anna can also control. The possibilities and probabilities are endless. You're not fixed to this body. The body is just, they call it a soul case, but it's definitely not a permanent encasement. If you've ever had the experience where you've gone to sleep and woken up and noticed scars, scratches, or abrasions on your body, and you don't recollect or remember how that happened, where they came from, it's very likely that you have shifted your consciousness into a parallel multiverse. So by all accounts, when you look in the mirror, it still looks like your persona, your consistent persona. So for me, say I go to sleep, I wake up, and there is a scratch on my arm or my hand, and I don't recognize where it came from. That to me is a sign that tells me, okay, I've shifted into a parallel multiverse. Still Anna, just different. And I then pay attention to what's around me, and I start looking for slightly different changes in the personalities or bodies of the people that that are a part of my life on a daily basis. So my fiance, or my mother, my father, my siblings, what have you. I just look for little differences. That's a cue to me that I've shifted or I've jumped realities. It happens more often than people realize. And why I bring that up as an example is for you to understand or to reiterate that your consciousness is not fixed to the version of yourself that you see looking in the mirror today. For all you know, you've jumped selves thousands of times without even realizing it. There are some people who have had near-death experiences where they saw themselves, like say like a car accident, they saw themselves turning left, and that turn to the left would have killed them. But instead, something happened and they found themselves sort of heading right and narrowly escaping death. What I'm postulating is that escape was not narrow. This version of yourself died, and then your consciousness simply traversed to a parallel multiverse where this version of yourself turned right. All probable realities exist at one time, and it's all predicated on your choice. I wake up this morning and I decide, instead of going to work, I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to call in sick and go to the beach. Okay. I don't have to manifest the reality in which I'm doing something differently than I would normally do on a Monday. That reality already exists. It comes already pre-programmed, and the revelation or realization of it occurs as soon as I choose. It's my choice, my free will, that actualizes that reality, takes it from a probability to an actuality or to a reality. So if I don't go to work and I go to the beach instead, the reality that I planned to experience the night before, which was getting up and going to work tomorrow, dissolves. That version of myself goes uninhabited by my consciousness. It just exists until I make the choice where it's not a necessity anymore. And then it dissolves. You could say it's a sort of death for that self. But my consciousness carries on into this reality wherein I go to the beach and I have the beach experience. So to reiterate, the reality that you desire already exists. It exists as a pre-programmed probability waiting to be actualized by the choices that you make. All you have to do is choose. Now, if you've never actualized a reality before, or at least I should say, if you've never consciously actualized a reality that you desire, the first step to doing so is simply to write it down. Now, I remember having this conversation with Missy, Missy asking me, like, really, it's that easy? Just write it down? Yes, it's that easy. Think of the life that you want, the desire that you have, as a destination. Think of your mind as a vessel or a ship, and think of your consciousness as a passenger. When you write down what it is that you desire, you are now consciously choosing a destination in which you want your consciousness, as detached from any of your variations of yourself, to experience. It's a destination. So, for example, I want to be the governor of California. Okay. Before I even chose to enter into this reality, into this world, that reality where I become the president of not the president, sorry, the governor of California, was pre-programmed as a probability within the game. In the same way as when you go to play your sim, any occupation that you desire for your sim is already pre-programmed into the game. It's just up to you to choose what sort of life you want your sim to experience, or what you want to experience for your sim, or with your sim, through your sim. All of the above. So, Governor of California. That probability already exists. I don't have to manifest it, I just have to choose it. So writing it down is the equivalent of keying into your GPS an address. If I say I need to go to the San Diego airport, or I need to go to the San Jose airport, I need to go to X, Y, and Z location, I just put in the address for the location that I want to go to, and then I navigate towards that destination. Most people are drifting what I would call drifting across a sea of infinite probabilities. A lot of people are living their life on default, what autopilot. What I mean by that is that rather than consciously making a choice and saying, this is what I want to experience for my persona, they are just sort of more unconscious observers of reality. So they're not grabbing the wheel, they're operating on autopilot. And what I'm saying is don't be that way. Grab the wheel. Put in the GPS, and instead of driving in a self-driving vehicle that you would be your body, navigate on your own with the knowledge and understanding that the destination that holds your destiny, what you have predetermined as this is my destiny, already exists. All you have to do is get there, experience it. Now, in previous videos, I've talked about the pushback effect, wherein when you decide you want to go somewhere, do something, experience something, literally the direct opposite effect occurs. I call that the pushback effect. It's similar to the law of for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So I'm going to take that concept and I'm going to tie it in to the concept of choosing your destiny as a destination, choosing a desire with the understanding that that desire is a destination as tangible as an address that you put in your GPS. Say I want to fly to Germany. I buy tickets. I go to the airport. I get to my gate, and it's announced that my flight will be delayed. Do I throw my hands up in the air and say, wow, okay, this must be a sign that I was not meant to go to Germany? No. I simply understand that delays are normal. I know to expect delays when you travel. And I simply take it at face value that eventually I will get to Germany. I've bought the tickets. It's a certainty. It's as good as done. I just have to wait to experience it. Now, what I'm imploring you to do is look at a destination like Germany, right? Just as tangible as what you want to achieve in your life. It's just as tangible as Germany. You don't have to manifest Germany, right? You didn't say, I want to go to a place that's in Europe and I'm going to call it Germany. No, it's a country. It already existed. You just wanted the experience. It wasn't a matter of you manifesting Germany. It's a matter of you simply buying a ticket and going to Germany. That's it. That's the same thing I'm saying for you in the desires that you hope to achieve in your life. You don't have to manifest a career where you're successful and getting paid what you deserve. It already exists, and it's just as tangible as Germany. It's just as tangible for you as it is for anybody who has achieved that. All you have to do is literally accept it as face value, as this is what I've decided to do, and I'm going to experience that. Expect delays. But if I stick with it, it's an inevitability. It will happen. Because it's already pre-programmed. In fact, there is a version of myself right now in a parallel multiverse existing as a probability where I have already experienced that reality. So all I have to do is shift my consciousness to that experience. And voila, it happens. Okay, so I have tried as best as I could to explain a concept that I know it sounds a lot more difficult than it actually is. My hope is that if you watch this enough times and you deeply think about the thoughts that I have provoked in your mind as to, wow, is it really that simple? Yes, it is. I find that you'll find that every goal you set for yourself, so long as you expect delays, so long as you don't give up when you experience a pushback effect, you will attain it. I guarantee you, you will experience it. It's not a matter of me promising you something. It's just me explaining the laws of this reality, the laws of reality, using quantum physics, computer gaming, and common sense. The reality that you desire already exists. All you have to do is experience it. Thanks for watching.